Now, there's situations with Amanda that you guys just aren't going to give a shit about for the same reason as you're not going to give a shit about Meg Missigatis. These are both fat old women. Well, comparatively with the people doing this shit. Fucking hell. Now, as many of you know, if you watch my videos, I do have a physical attraction to fat women. And that is more of a mental attraction. It comes from something my dad once said to me. He said, Sean, you need to get yourself a pretty wife so you have someone to show off. And then you need to get yourself a fat girlfriend so you can still have fun. And of course, I was 9. All right. 9 years old when my dad said this to me. So I hadn't even gone through puberty. My attraction to large women has nothing to do with a sexual attraction. It has to do with, well, a 9-year-old's idea of having fun. It's somebody to go have fun with. You're going to go do fun stuff. What's fun stuff? You know, the stuff that you get to hear everybody else's families do. Oh, you mean there's families that, like, go places instead of smacking you around? That's cool. Hell, I even later in my life got to go to some of those places. I got to go to Disneyland once. Yup. Like a real family would. I, like a real family would. We'll use that one. Natalie Bollinger was pretty. And of course, Leslie Snell, she's older than Amanda. Leslie Snell is old. She is aged well, though, and so is her sister. They're both very good looking young women. They both look far younger than they are. They both look as if they were in their 20s. These are women who are in their 40s. They're old. But they're blonde haired, blue eyed white girls. Now, let's say if I was to try to be one of those hateful people who would go and take revenge and kill somebody, even if we pretend that, well, just like in high school, Leslie Snell had shorter hair back then, really short. And Lynn was kind of mean to me. And of course, I bitched at Leslie one day for it, and Leslie said, Leslie has less hair. Well, she's intelligent, she's inventive. That shows that she was well aware of the things that she was doing that were wrong. Apparently, somebody is blasting some rap at God knows what in the morning. I don't much care for rap, but the only issue that I really have with rap, same issue I have with all my videos when people start playing that. YouTube automatically has a fix it for that. What's that got to do with Amanda Demet? Nothing. It's distracting as shit, though. That's one of the things about being overwhelmed as an autistic person. You need a place where you're not stuck in burnout mode, which is what I'm stuck in. Autistic burnout is fucking hell. And going through it for years because, well, some women just don't care about others or how their lives, and they're manipulating and they're playing affects the lives of others. They just simply don't care. What they see are the benefits for them. With Amanda Demet, the benefit for her was not being lonely. Let me tell you how I met Amanda Demet. Amanda Demet was friends with my little sister. I didn't know who she was. So then there's this hunchback that was working at Cabela's Furniture, or not Cabela's Furniture, Cabela's corporate offices cleaning for Janet Roberts. Y'all know that story. Me working for Janet Roberts anyway. Jamie Curtis's grandma. Small towns. Everybody knows everybody. So my mom kept pestering me. She keeps telling me, Amanda Daniels this, Amanda Daniels that. Amanda Daniels has a big old crush on you. Amanda Daniels thinks you're the best thing since peanut butter. So I come to find out, Amanda Daniels is actually allergic to peanut butter. Ask me how I know that. Is it some big old embarrassing story? No, it was when I told Amanda what my mom had said. She said, well, I'm allergic to peanut butter. So I know it because Amanda told me she's allergic to peanut butter. But when I asked her out, she said no. I come to find out later on her Facebook, from her Facebook, of course, that I was her first crush. Well, why did she say no when I asked her out? Well, she says now that she was dating my brother, which that would be creepy. But she did later on date my brother, about a year and a half later or so. My little brother Michael, the one who's a child molester. Matter of fact, she's the one that let me know about that situation. Well, a few more details anyway. Brenda Dickinson of Chapel, Nebraska was the first one to let me know. Now, all these people, are they telling me these things to manipulate me? Or are they telling me these things because they're true? Well, unlike you fucking idiots, I did some digging. Turns out it's true. Not only that, I got several people involved in that were involved in the situation to actually speak about it, and I recorded it, and I put at least one of those on YouTube. You can hear my little sister speaking about my little brother, and she didn't want to come out with that info, did she? Nope. What are the chances that my little brother is a sexual predator? They're pretty fucking good. Now, other than Jamie Curtis, how many women are you going to find that are going to say, oh yeah, Sean tried having sex with me? That would be none. And if I had to deal with a drunk woman who expected sex, I did my best to not make her feel like it was because she was ugly. Did my best, because every woman out there gets a complex over fucking nothing in this country. We have taught them to get offended by every goddamn thing. But you're not offended by how autistic people are treated in this country. You're telling me about how you love your son and he's the most important thing in the world, and you're being selfish with his life. You're not fighting for his rights. You don't have a vested interest in your son. You have a vested interest in your time with your son right now. Sure, you want to make the best use of it instead of working together with other mothers of autistic children to make sure that your son is taken care of. And you know that your son, being a son, is going to have to go through unspeakable horrors. Those of you with daughters who are autistic, most of America doesn't care unless they hear the word rape. When your daughter's autistic, maybe you live a long time. Maybe you live to be 85 years old, and your daughter is 75 years old, and she passes away before you, and she's in the same home as you, even in the same room where you can look out for one another. If your daughter is autistic and that happens to be the case, well, maybe you can keep her safe for her entire life. But what happens when you're obese? What happens when the doctor says that you got some diabetic issues and you're also going to lose your vision and that you're going to have some pretty severe migraines and you are probably not going to live long? Amanda Demet will be dead here soon. She's going to. She's way too big. For her health issues, I mean, they told my Aunt Mary she was going to be dead from her obesity, but, with Amanda Demet, she's got a lot of issues. Now, for me, in order to try to have some semblance of a life, not just for me, but for any of the victims, I say that at the end of all my videos now, don't I? No victim left behind. There's a reason for that. White victims are left behind because you want to sell a narrative that it's only being done to black people, or that only black victims matter. Not okay. Male victims are being ignored. And not just ignored when they come forward about their own abuse. They are abused, in many cases, by women. And those women take out their rage and their hatred towards men because they were molested by their daddies, and they're taking it out on you because you, as a male, came forward. You're told you need to go to the back of the bus. You're told that it's not your fight. I got 2 different women who are friends on my Facebook. Friends with me, not each other. And both of them have opposing views on this abortion issue. One of them believes that God ordained this, and if you get pregnant by your daddy, God wanted it. This is what God willed for you in your life. So that woman, of course, she wants to post up a bunch of stuff about how men, after posting up about how men need to keep their noses out of this also. I do want to point that out. She is not so Christian as to be, oh, well, I'm supposed to be my husband's carpet for walking on. No, she's not that. I'm so tired. So these 2 women with their abortion debate, thank goodness they don't know each other. That would turn into one hell of a fucking mess. I could easily turn into one of them situations where I got 2 women who both have evidence that, well, if I don't give them what they want and stop being friends with that other woman, like I'm cheating on them, like we're dating or something. No, that other woman has evidence. Of course I'm going to fucking pay attention to that. Now, with these 2 women who are arguing over this shit on Facebook, they're not arguing over my situation or helping me or anything like that. We got the one woman who thinks that no matter what, abortion should always be illegal. And she expects men should, of course, keep their opinions to themselves about women's issues like abortion. Abortion is only a women's issue. This is what we're pushed on us by women from both sides of the abortion issue. We got the halfies, the ones who are like, well, if you have unprotected sex and you get pregnant or the condom breaks, you know what? That's life. It happens. And you just need to deal with it. If you end up pregnant due to your own stupidity, you're still pregnant and you need to carry that kid. However, if you're raped or there's incest, there might be health issues. And of course, we don't want to do that to an individual, to bring them into this world knowing that they might potentially have those health issues. And then you got the ones who think that everybody should be allowed to have an abortion for any purpose whatsoever. When you hear the my body, my choice thing, that's primarily the last group, but the other two, they'll chant that slogan too for their own cause. Now, while they're arguing over this abortion issue, and both of them are women who have a long history of telling men they're not allowed to have an opinion on the abortion issue, now both sides are trying to tell men that men are horrible if they don't take sides on this abortion issue, and it has to be their side or you can't be friends. Well, excuse me, says I, but if I get you pregnant, I still have to pay my child support, don't I? You goddamn right I do. What you're trying to do with this abortion issue is drag me into something that's none of my business. You've been telling me for years it's none of my business. Now, what's this got to do with Amanda Demet? It comes down to us teaching women that it is okay to abuse men. That abuse towards men is not only acceptable, it is a privilege that you should hold dear and use and abuse often. Because you're a woman and you're not as strong as a man. Really, really. And then we have all these women who want to go, oh, well, you know, a woman can do anything a man can do and better. Fine. There are women out there that are definitely better at just about everything than I am. You look at sports, I'm no good at fucking sports. You find a woman who's good at sports, there you go. She's better than me at sports. Does that mean she's going to be better than a professional sports player? Probably not. You find a professional female sports player. Is she going to be better than the males? Maybe, maybe not. Depends on an individual basis. Now let's talk about intelligence and knowledge. Knowing something. See, that's where people who didn't want to look at the evidence wanted to make every excuse not to understand how their situation was tied into this, especially their excuses. You know, the cops said I never tried to get help. And all these professionals, that there's all of this overwhelming evidence that shows that I did go to them for help before Natalie was killed, that I did go to Nicole Peralta, that I did go to Tamara, that I have their cards. The evidence shows that I went to my friends for help stopping the abuse. They just wanted to, well, tell me how to think and tell me how to feel, and it's always those catch-22s, isn't it? There's the, oh, well, you just need to worry about yourself. Well, if I worry about myself and take care of myself, then I'm being selfish. Well, Sean, you need to not be selfish. You need to think about others. Well, I think about others all the time. I haven't stopped thinking about others. But the thing is, if my little sister is being fucking threatened and she is being followed by the fucking cops, especially after all of the fucking hell that I was put through trying to turn in those very same cops that I was forced to go to, Nebraska State Patrol, if one person would have made those calls with me, one person who was fucking informed, who actually took the time to look at the fucking evidence, someone to have the knowledge that I was telling the truth. Even when I tagged their names in it, when they said, oh, Sean, I'll take a look, I'll share it. And even if I tagged their names in it, they still never looked. Sarah Bacon being one of the primary examples. And everybody gets fucking cancer, don't they? Everybody gets cancer. You lucky fucking dogs. You have no idea how lucky you are to have cancer. You have any idea how much I would rejoice if I found out I had cancer? But then again, what do you guys have to live for? A lot. You have families. You have immediate families who you care about and who care about you, and they give you familiarity and a sense of security just because they exist in your environment. What do I have? I got a bunch of strangers, and I'm thankful for their help, but I don't know them from Adam. They don't know me from Adam, and they're not going to look at my evidence. They're not going to help me get a place. They're not going to help me fill out that paperwork. They're not going to understand that. But then again, you guys went out of your way not to understand that, didn't you? Nearly all the stuff that I told you already about Amanda, and I'm going to tell you in this video about Amanda, is verified by Amanda herself in recorded conversations that are on the YouTube channel. So, what I should probably try to do is try to lay down and get some sleep, but I can't. Because I know that I don't have the means or the ability to expose all the stuff that I need to expose or show all the stuff about all these people. I just simply have not had the means. That's what false charges do. It doesn't matter that they dropped the charges. Oh, well, they didn't do anything wrong if they dropped the charges. No, they absolutely did. And they got people killed in doing so. The cops in Natalie's case, well, yeah, they're hella invested in covering up the crimes they committed. They had no problems with slandering my name, but here's the biggest issue. None of them ever showed proof. None of them. There's a lot of evidence because of Natalie Bollinger's situation being a murder trial. They can't destroy the body cam evidence. Also, even with Joseph Michael Lopez taking a plea deal, he can actually still, because of the way those officers interacted with me and the way that they fucked with the evidence, the way that they coordinated with officers across the state to threaten, harass, and intimidate me. Where's the guarantee that they didn't do the same to Lopez? Where's the guarantee there that they didn't find somebody who, well, somebody they could peg it on other than me? Maybe somebody who's brown, who it's easier to peg it on. Once they got that reputation for being liars. But then again, look at Waylon Lolatai. Look at how the Boulder Police Department repeatedly, over and over and over again, found their officers to be not guilty of committing any crimes, yet they were convicted by juries. They were convicted by juries of doing those things. They were also forced to pay out thousands of your taxpayer dollars. These cops didn't earn that money. This didn't come out of their paycheck. That came out of yours, as it always does. That's why there's no money for battered women's shelters. Those were all handed over to local sheriff's departments in the late 80s and early 90s. You can thank the American government for creating a system that victimizes the victims both monetarily and, of course, we can't say both, can we? Because we're abused in so many different ways. Physically, sexually, psychologically. Not just the women. With Amanda Demet, she was one of the people I was going to go see in Virginia. She wasn't in Virginia, she was in Alabama. And Ed Simmons, he was one of the people I was going to go see when I went to Virginia. But he wasn't in Virginia, he was in Dayton, Ohio. You notice these people are all over the place, right? But they're a lot closer to Virginia, every one of them. And then there's Sage, and of course, he was in contact with me the whole time I was in Virginia, just like Amanda was. According to everything that Amanda liked on my YouTube channel, on my Facebook before I even went to Virginia, and all the stuff through Virginia, and all the stuff after Virginia, she liked almost every single thing that I commented on, almost every single post that I made for like 2 years. It's a long time, isn't it? So she was aware of the situation with Natalie. She was also aware of the situation when I left. She was aware of how much it hurt me with all those people and the way that they had treated me when I was in a fucked up situation. You know, I needed help. Arguing with people over racist posts was not help, that's for certain. A lot of people threw me away. They threw me away for standing up for what's right. Like when I spoke up on Tyler Frerich's racist post about Colin Kaepernick. Amanda Demet liked all of those posts. Did she actually ever read them? Was she paying attention or was she just pretending to? Now, obviously, Amanda Demet having a hunchback back then, you know, it didn't bother me. She was nice, you know. Alyssa Derry, yeah, I had a crush on her because she was pretty. I knew she was pretty, and of course, everybody wanted to tell me how pretty she was. Well, I don't have a crush on Alyssa Derry anymore. Matter of fact, I was done with having a crush on her before I was ever out of high school. Kim Jepsen was my best friend, and I couldn't see myself having a crush on somebody who Kim didn't like because she was nice to everybody. With Amanda Demet, she had a little sister named Victoria who was very sweet. She was very, what's the word? Clingy. Victoria had as big a crush on me as Amanda did. She was just a little girl, though. It was an innocent crush, which is different. Amanda, she was already going through puberty, and she was starting to think about boys and stuff like that. Victoria, just, you know, kids. If you're good people, they like you. When Victoria died, that tore Amanda up. It wasn't any good for me either. Of course, these can't be losses for me. I can't feel those losses. I'm not allowed. Well, just because people don't think I should be allowed to feel those feelings, it doesn't stop me from feeling them. I feel horrible for everything that Amanda had to go through in that situation. Her not being allowed to take off of work to go to her own sister's funeral, that's fucked up. But then again, you do owe it to your people at work, don't you? You owe them your whole life. The moment you sign that piece of paper, if they don't want to give you them vacation days, they'll find a way to keep you there. Oh, well, they already scheduled you. You can't just take off the schedule. You'll have to quit. Always crazy shit like that, ain't there? Corporate loopholes. Amanda got to see all of that. She knew I was trying to get help. When somebody changes so completely, they don't do so for no reason. You get to hear these folks talk about who I was before this. Afterwards, they want to pretend that I'm a horrible monster because of things that I had to do because I wasn't taken seriously. People thought if they ignored it for long enough that it would stop. It doesn't work that way. That is not the way that abuse works. That girl who came to you when she was 15 to tell you that her dad was molesting her, She's going to take that until she's 18. She's either going to end up in a nuthatch or institution for cutting on herself over it, in which case you guys treat her like shit and not want to be her friends anymore. Or she'll just take it day in and day out, every time that sick motherfucker wants to put his hands on her. I spoke about these dynamics before these things happened with Natalie because they're commonplace. Just like blaming the homeless. When they had that fireman in Colorado, Boulder, Canyon, what did he do? He started a fucking fire. And he got a slap on the wrist. They made a big old to-do about how it was a homeless person who started that fire and so on and so forth. Even arrested them people for starting that fire. And what happened? Turned out it was a off-duty fireman. With all of these situations with the police, especially at the very beginning, where they got away with the illegal things that they did, it's because I had to go in person. Even with all these people who said that they would, they didn't. Every time I tried to turn it in, cops were being assholes to me. You know, the law says that my rights are supposed to be protected, even more so than yours, because I'm disabled. But were those rights observed? No, they weren't going to observe those rights. What I would have needed in order to have my rights observed was help in person. Help in person, showing the evidence. Help in person when I have to speak to the cops. And I did have to speak to the cops. I'd been speaking to the cops for almost a year before Natalie died. You'd hear these folks going, "Oh, you're a rat. You're a rat." Do you say the same thing about Natalie? Do you say the same thing about Tim Beeson? Tim Beeson was one of the people threatening to kill me and threatening to kill my family. He is still free. I've been trying to turn him in since 2017. What Natalie Bollinger did was not okay. And just because she did a whole bunch of fucking drugs and wanted to be friendly with the people who had those drugs, no matter how much they had abused her, you know what? That's not my fault. That's not shit I should be abused over. Who is it that made Natalie Bollinger use heroin? It wasn't me. I've never even tried heroin. By her own words, it was her dad. But the evidence doesn't matter, does it? Amanda Demet, she wanted to make some nice, pretty promises at the very beginning. Tell me she was going to do some things that she didn't end up doing. Now, my question is, was she going to try to help me when she claimed that she came to Nebraska? She had other things that she was doing, but she claimed that she came to chapel to help me with that stuff, and she couldn't because of her vehicle. Now, of course, that's on my channel, her admitting to that situation, where she said that she would come and she would help me. Where she admitted that that situation happened, where she said it was her vehicle and the rental of it that was the issue with her being able to come help me, or to look at the evidence in person. The first person to actually sit down and look at evidence with me in person, actually look at it, was Mandy Singer. And guess what? That wasn't until this year, 2022. Unlike Amanda, Mandy Singer admitted where and when she screwed up. How can I not respect a woman who does that? between an autism advocate who is a part of the situation going all the way back to the beginning. Of course, this autism advocate being Amanda Demet. Well, did she actually look at those posts, or did she just like them because she had a crush on me back in the day? And then when she come up and saw me, she realized I'm not the same guy anymore. How can I be? Especially since Amanda Demet was part of so much of the situation herself. I mean, it wasn't just the stuff after Natalie died. While I was in Virginia, I was calling her and talking to her and messaging with her. I mean, she was my friend. She was one of the people that I had planned the trip with to go see. Same thing with Sage. Same thing with Ed Simmons. These are all people that I planned on seeing with that money. The money that I spent to go rescue Jamie Curtis and her son. But Jamie, it doesn't register to her the sacrifices that I made, or the sacrifices that others made for her to be able to manipulate like that. The sacrifice in time and resources. Jamie didn't stop to imagine that since I spent all of my money to go rescue her and the boy, instead of going and making sure that Natalie was okay and she didn't blow her head off or try to wreck her car into a fucking telephone pole again. And Natalie was having a real rough time too. She was on opiates from trying to kill herself, running her vehicle into a tree because I wasn't there fast enough. But of course, the kids always got to come first, don't they? How was Jamie able to manipulate me? By using her son. She felt unsafe for her son. Her son. It's because by that point she realized that her vagina obviously had never worked on me. Obviously, I'd never played with it, and, you know, I really had more of an interest in making sure that her son was safe than I did in her vagina. I also knew that sex was important to Jamie and that I was about to lose my best friend if I couldn't figure that out. Well, you know what? I'm dense as a motherfucker sometimes. There is stuff that I just simply don't know, and if you don't spell it out, I'm not going to figure it out. Maybe if I'd ever had a girlfriend, I could figure out some of this stuff because I'd have been in situations where I had been exposed to it. But no, I grew up in the system. Most of the time, you're in a facility where it's all dudes. If people are touching you that way, it's not a girlfriend. When you're in co-ed facilities, you're on different sides of the hall. There is a monitor there at all points in time. Sometimes those guys will sneak into somebody's room at 2 or 3 in the morning and do shit they shouldn't. But they're supposed to monitor the halls, and they're supposed to make sure there's no touching ever. And you guys don't understand how important that human touch really is. When you're taught as a child that touching is bad, you don't want to touch people, and you don't want people to touch you. You don't want them to do bad things. And all these people who want to tell me all of their reasons, they don't need to tell me those. They need to tell the public. And they need to tell the police. And they need to tell the courts. Why didn't you come forward about what you knew? Why did you admit to these things? They're obviously admitted to on this YouTube channel. Why did you admit those things? And then months or years after the situation claim that they didn't happen? Why did you pretend that Sean Schwartz slandered you when he's got you on video saying it yourself? Tough questions to answer. With Amanda Demet, just like with many of these other people, these are tough questions for her to answer. If all these people answer honestly in court, they're all going to fucking jail. So there's no incentive for them to tell the truth in court. It doesn't matter what their intentions are. The law is the law, is it not? Oh, that's right. We forgot, huh? You get to change the rules based on whether you like the person or not. And whether or not you like them is generally based on the way that they look. Amanda's a huge woman. So is Megan Missigatis. They're very obese women. Now, I never had a crush on Megan Missigatis. But I did have a pretty big one on Amanda. "25 years of friendship. But the one thing I got to pay attention to is that I got to keep my eyes on the prize. Amanda Demet's son. I got to make sure that he's kept safe and that he doesn't have to look forward to a future like mine. Same thing with Laura Nelson's son. I recorded the things that I needed to, and I tried to turn them in where they needed to be turned into. But there's stuff I'm not able to do, and I do need assistance with those things in person. Telling me to do it isn't going to get it done. Now, if I'm having somebody on the street show me how to use my desktop computer so I can do some of the things that I need to do with it so I can send out the evidence, well, how am I going to do that if I can't get my computer to him and at a place where it can be plugged in? Got to work on fixing my vehicle, right? We all have problems. That's a horrible excuse for not coming forward when someone is being abused. Yeah, we all have problems. We've all got bills to pay. But does that make it okay to look away? No, it fucking doesn't. You don't get to pretend you're a good person after that. When good men do nothing, that is evil enough. Silence is violence. With Amanda Demet and the situation with my sister, she wants me to treat her claiming what was it she was saying? The corruption in Nebraska. Western Nebraska is corrupt. They're corrupt out here. They're corrupt. I'm afraid for my kids. Well, if you were afraid for your kids, is that really how you'd react? Are you really going to play victim when you say something like that to somebody? And of course, with my experiences, you see how many people are dead. Of course, I'm going to take it serious. A lot of people wanted to have magic health problems. I probably got 100 different messages from various people telling me that they ended up with a magic medical condition that's going to kill them. They've all got cancer of some sort, or glaucoma is going to kill them. Or, of course, there's diabetes, or there's their obesity. They're dying, so I'm supposed to feel sorry for them. No? No, young lady, I'm giving you a chance to repent for your immortal soul. Those of you who don't believe in God, well, that's fine. Those of you who do believe in God, do you really? Because you sure ain't showing it. Part of repenting is professing by mouth, admitting to your screw-ups, admitting to your mistakes, admitting to your sins. If I lust after a woman, I'll admit it. I don't lust after women for a reason. Same reason I don't lust after men. I'm just not interested in that part of either one's anatomy. I'm not even that interested in mine. If I'm not interested in my own that much, why the hell would I give a shit about yours? Amanda's different, though. Like, she's got things sexually that she wants people to do to her that I consider abuse. No, I'm not going to have sex with that. When I say that, I don't mean Amanda. I mean that kind of psychological bullshit. That I can't handle. I'm not going to choke you, not even if you are aroused by it. That's gross. There's things I'm not going to do. If you ask me to put my parts in your back end, no. Ugh, gross. I don't even want to put it in your front end part. Swapping snot is gross, and it's all the consistency of snot. It's gross. Maybe it's not gross to you, but it's sure gross to me. And you know what? When it comes to boundaries and accepting people, do you accept my boundaries? No. No, you don't. Don't pretend to be my friend if you're not going to speak up about what you know. And if you're going to play victim when I have to show it on the internet because you didn't try to help me get it into court, well, that's on you. When in court, you could have said, yes, I did tell Sean that I would do those things. And no, I didn't keep my word. I had family issues. You know what? You aren't expected in most cases to go into what those family issues are. But if you're going to have a conversation with me and those family issues are your excuse for not keeping your word, I already knew what the cops were going to say. It was a no fucking brainer. They were going to claim that I was mentally ill, that I didn't cry, and that I wasn't trying to get help. That was a fucking no brainer when they actually did it, and you guys treated me like fucking shit because that's what they did. No, that's their fucking protocol. You've never been homeless. That's not my fault. Some of these women have claimed that they've lived in their vehicles, and I can believe it. I've known quite a few women who have lived in their vehicles. It's not even close to the same as the exposure of being homeless. But in a car, that does actually increase your chances of getting fucked with by the cops. Unless you find a nice spot like this where they're not supposed to. That doesn't stop them from doing it. I mean, obviously, they've been up here several times to harass me. And now they know I got a YouTube channel. Well, things are different. There's several situations where they pulled up and told people things that were improper and untrue. It was that pervert that Shayna and Logan were talking about. That's the one that the cops lied to. He's the one that was going to assault me in the McDonald's. And of course, she's tiny. She's not going to be able to defend herself against a guy like that. I'm glad she's got a skateboard. Now, the Amanda Demet, these are all things that are as far from her mind as, well, just about anything can be. She's in her own feels. She's in her own emotions. And the advice that she wanted to give me instead of listening to me, that advice, she's not taking. She's not taking that advice. And it does show the hypocrisy of it all. If I do the exact same thing as my predators, I'd be in prison right now. But I don't. When I do have to show that those behaviors that these people committed against me are against the law, yeah, I might try it once. If you always do what you always did, you always get what you always got. I tried doing it myself. That didn't work. It never works. All of the parts where it almost worked, it's when I actually had help. Of course, I had to speak on YouTube loud and proud that I had help. I had to do that so that it was documented. You never know how people are going to react. You never know when you go to Bristol, Virginia to see your friend Moose, a.k.a. Brett Roloff. You never know when he's actually just going to be screaming and shouting the whole time because he's methed out of his fucking gourd, digging through his own feces for a baggie he swallowed. Yeah, that's recorded. With Amanda Demet, I was hoping she was smarter than all that. She did verify how complicated it is for parents of autistic children, especially when you have a lower functioning autistic child. But, of course, with the situation with Natalie Bollinger, going back to people like Amanda Demet for help, going back to people like Kayla Trujillo for help, going to people like Joanna Taylor-Smith and Derek Parrish for help trying to get this to stop. What's the point? None of them care. I'm thankful for this gentleman who's helping me to work on my vehicle, but I'm not going to be for shit to be able to help him. I can love you without loving what you did. I am entirely capable of that. However, when it comes to repenting, I stand with the Jesus on that. I really do. I like the Jesus. He's my favorite character of any fantasy book ever written. My favorite one out of all of them. But I don't follow his religion. I follow the teachings, many of them, for a reason. But also, I know that most of those rules are meant to not offend people. And you know what? We're in a war, goddammit. We're going to have to offend somebody. This stuff shouldn't have been put onto Amanda Demet. After she'd made it loud and clear that she wasn't even going to try. Yeah, it was not appropriate at that point for Megan Mitsigadis to dump all of my evidence onto Amanda Demet. She doesn't give a shit about it. She says, oh, I'll help you with the Social Security. Well, guess what, Amanda? That stuff with Social Security, that stuff that was all supposed to be hashed out with Megan Mitsigadis. You got expectations of me that, well, denote that I've got more resources and money than I really have. I'm not going to stop doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do just because you're an idiot. Just because you're one of those dumbasses who makes excuses not to even try. At least I know one person who does the right thing because it's the right thing to do. I'm the only person I know who does that. Most of the parents that I know with kids, man, they shouldn't have kids. Amanda Demet, well, I think she does a pretty damn all right job, but then again, I'm not there. Anyway, it's good to be with you. Thanks for coming to visit. Stay out of trouble or don't get caught. Remember, you are your brother's keeper. No victim left behind. I know I had more to this video I was going to try to add, but I'm too fucking tired to... Yeah, good night.